I think we're live.
It's a good question. Oh, we are live. Yep.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone. How you all doing?
Welcome to the summer of GraphQL.
Summer of GraphQL. It's so much fun. Hi, Amelia. Should we introduce ourselves?
Sure.
So, Amelia, why don't you go ahead and get started?
All right, awesome. Hi, I'm Amelia, and I'm a developer evangelist at Contentful with these awesome other people here. And I'm really excited for our first live streaming event for Summer of GraphQL.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shy. I'm also a developer evangelist at Contentful. I get to work with Amelia every day, and we're joined by our special guest today. So Amelia and I will be coming to you over the next 8 weeks with a whole bunch of amazing guests and live streams designed to help teach you and educate you about GraphQL and all the amazing things that you can do with it. And to kick things off, we thought, who better to invite but our favorite person, one of our favorite colleagues. Sorry, everyone else who works at Contentful. We do have a favorite, and it's Stefan. Stefan, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Hey, I'm Stefan. I also work in the Contentful DevRel team. And yeah, I do front-end JavaScript stuff for quite a little bit. And today we're going to talk about GraphQL.
Yeah. So Stefan is underselling himself a little bit here. We've been doing a lot of really exciting stuff at Contentful. We have our new community edition. We have all sorts of new exciting things going on. But I think the most exciting thing that we've put out in the last couple of days is actually this really cool GraphQL course that Stefan has been working on. Stefan, do you want to tell us a little bit about the course that you made and what folks who can expect from it?
Yeah, maybe you can pull it up.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Ooh. Here we go.
Yeah, so what happened is that now for a few weeks is that GraphQL finally made it into the free offering of Contentful, which I personally am very, very excited about. And we took this opportunity to first of all, celebrate that GraphQL is now free, but also that we want to tell or teach a little bit how actually GraphQL works and why it is so cool. So what I did over the last few months is that I sat down and recorded a little bit of a few videos, which then basically are going from zero with Create React App to a React application that uses Contentful and Contentful's GraphQL API. Going, from basically nothing to something that uses React and queries data from Contentful. And you will find everything under contentful.com/developers/videos/learn-GraphQL. when Shy can pull up the screen.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just having a little bit of an issue with Firefox. So I'm just going to go ahead and restart Firefox. I'll be back in just a second.
No worries. So should I try in the meantime?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, let's see how that works.
And these videos are really great. They're anywhere from 3 to 8 minutes long, really bite-sized, and I've really been enjoying going through all of them and building a React app with Contentful and GraphQL. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying your video series, Stefan.
Well, thank you. So let me see if that works. I'm sharing now, which I don't see in the... Here we go. So you can find the material. Basically, you can navigate to contentful.com/developers, and here you will find Contentful tutorials. And then there's this big button that tells Learn GraphQL and React with Contentful. So when you go here, you will find something along 14 videos that are usually something between 3 and 8 minutes. And it goes really step by step on how you can start using GraphQL with Contentful.
Really like the hollow mirrors effect we have right here. Oh, this is awesome. So many of us. Then we could feel like we've tripled in size. This is the entire DevRel team to us three. So we just need to have that hall of mirrors, keep going and going. We'll have like 50 of us. So. We've always wanted tons of stuff on too. So this is great.
So should we, well, now we lost Shy. Share the other window. Let's see if Shy reappears. Yeah, so what we wanted to do today is basically we wanted to start from scratch, and we would like to just building a React app using Contentful GraphQL, which is more or less covering the contents of the course. Here you can all ask questions, and we maybe take a completely different direction. Let's see where we're going to go.
Cool.
So now Shy is back to hopefully share his screen.
Yes, Angie, can you go ahead and add our screen to the stream? And shout out to Angie, who's helping drive all this from our team. All of this technical magic is thanks to her. So cool. So yeah, this is my screen. Did you all talk about the course already and show it off?
We did.
Webpage?
We did.
You did. Amazing. Yeah. Cool. Last thing I really want to plug before we dive into things is we actually have, we want to reward you for building things on our GraphQL API. So we have this cool thing that we're doing where we have some super secret limited swag. Once it's gone, that's it. It's not coming back unless you tell us it's popular enough, and then we'll bring it back. But for now, this is the only way to get it. If you build something using the Contentful GraphQL API and you share it with us, and you tell us about it, we will hook you up and we will send you some great limited swag in the mail. So you can hit that at contentful.com/resources/GraphQL. And it's in Google as well. If you want to just if you just want to Google Contentful GraphQL swag, you should find the page as well. So so we're going to go ahead and get started building stuff. So I went ahead and cheated, and I ran create React app before the stream because it takes a couple minutes, and I didn't want you all to have to sit here and watch me do create React app because I feel like that would be no fun. So Stefan, I figure maybe we could start with a fresh Contentful space, or do you want to poke around in GraphQL, or how do you think we should get started?
Well, I think that the first thing is that, so what we see here is the result of create React app. And the first thing that we should do is probably to have a look at the package JSON to see what the development commands are that are available. So what you see there is the scripts block, and what you see there are 4 scripts, and we're going to deal with the start script, which means that now in the terminal in VS Code, what you can do is you can do npm run start. Yeah. Or yarn start if you are a yarn person.
I'm a yarn person. So I'm a Python developer most of the day, but I know enough JavaScript and I'm opinionated about npm versus yarn. So let me go ahead and navigate over to 3000.
Yeah. And this now should show the development server. Cool. And what we see here is the result of create React app. It is really just the React logo spinning away. And I think that for this stream, what we could do is that we could making this whole content editable by using contentful data and GraphQL. And the first thing, the first thing is really, I would start with a fresh space, and then let's get some data in.
Cool. So let me go ahead and pull up Contentful.
Yeah.
And I will go ahead and create a new space.
So for the people that are new to Contentful, space is basically a bucket, or like a bucket of data that you can use for several projects or for several websites with different use cases or types of content, depending on how you structure your data. So what we would have to do first is, what do we want to build, Shy? Do you have any preference?
So I've been really proud of, I've picked up a hobby. You all have been like forced to look at my hobby for the last couple of weeks over quarantine, but I've gotten really into baking. And so maybe we could make, I have all of these lovely pictures of like things that I've been cooking, cakes and cookies and stuff. And I did a vodka infusion. So maybe we could do like a food blog or something.
Cool. Yeah. Then let's set up a content type for, what do we call it? Food? Item?
Yeah. Let's do it.
So what you can do is in Contentful is you can flexibly define the data structures and the content that you want to have. So basically, we could now define a new content type here, which let's call it food item. Is food a probably singular word?
Yeah. I mean, we could just do food item. That works.
Doesn't sound. Yeah, let's go.
Let's just do food. Let's just do food.
Let's go food. Okay. So the thing now is that you can create a content type, and the beauty of Contentful is that you can really define your structures on the way, and that's something that I always really enjoyed, because when I need something that people should edit, I could go into Contentful, I could set up a new content type, and then I could just go away.
Yeah.
So with this, we have to define some fields first. So probably our food item needs a name or a title or something.
It does. What? Name.
Yeah.
Cool.
And what else? I think a look is good. Required looks good.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not required. Yeah.
Yeah, we can make it required. So validation required.
Cool.
Save it, and then we want the picture. The picture is the important part here.
Picture is important. Probably want to have description too.
Yes, we can do that as well. So let me go ahead and create and configure the picture, make it required, and make it only a image. I don't have any. I don't want any videos of cakes. I just want pictures of cakes, and then we can add. How about a recipe? We could use rich text to maybe store the recipes.
Yeah, that sounds very good. So if you're coming from the blogging world, a lot of times you might have used Markdown to store these kind of things, like a body copy or descriptions or something.
Mm-hmm.
In Contentful, we have a field type that is called rich text. And we'll probably dig into that a little bit later. But the idea behind this is that the content that you put into Contentful is not based on a long string value, but rather it will be resulting in a JSON blob, which means then that your content stays nicely and structured. Cool, yeah, and this looks good to me now.
Yeah, we happy with all of this? Yeah, cool. I'm happy with this.
Let's save the content type then.
Cool. And we should go ahead and make an entry of this content.
That sounds good to me.
Cool. So let's go ahead and add some food.
Yeah. So basically, we're now creating the first entry of the content type that we just created. So we have to give it the image first.
So this is the most difficult part of the entire stream, is we have to pick which food we're gonna talk about.
Pick your favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one looks really good. So
do the coffee cheesecake. Okay, I was pretty proud of that. That was my last thing that I did.
Yeah, that one looks very good.
There we go. I'll do the one with the slice, which is, I think, this one. There we go.
That looks great.
Cool. So this is a 4 megabyte image. We probably want to downsize that later, but let's see how far we get here.
Yes. Oh, did that work? Is my Firefox not cooperating?
Did it upload?
There we go.
Yeah. Cool.
Espresso cheesecake.
Yummy.
Picture. Cool. So let me go ahead and publish that.
So now we're gonna publish that, and now we can start setting up our first food item.
Felipe says that it makes me hungry, so shout out.
That's really what I was going for. Is I'm trying to win everyone's hearts and minds with my cooking. So I'm just gonna grab a random recipe off the internet, and just so we have some text in here. So this recipe is gonna have. Let me go ahead and fix the formatting here. So we've got some list elements. We've got some headings, which is exciting, and rich text should hopefully be able to render this all pretty cleanly. Give me one sec. So those are our ingredients, and this is going to be a heading 2, heading 3, and then the actual recipe is important. Well, we can come back to the recipe. I'm just going to chuck those in there now so we can keep going. So
cool.
It's a guesswork how you make it, but those are the ingredients.
Yeah, and I think as a first step, what we should do is that we maybe should try to get the name of this cheesecake.
Yeah.
Right into React. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. So do you want to? Should we go head over to GraphiQL?
Yeah. I think GraphiQL is a good idea. So when you're dealing with GraphQL, GraphQL comes with this really nice tooling that allows you to discover the data that is available in the API just by having a look at the tooling that comes with it. So Contentful offers GraphiQL, which is kind of a de facto standard. And what you see here is to the left side is that you can go in and you can define the query for the data that you want to run. And when you then hit play, you get the data response on the right side. So, and Shy is now copy and pasting the space ID and the access token so that we actually have access to this data. So you find this under the settings and API sections.
Yep, right here, settings, API setting.
Yep.
Ooh. And
you can remove all this query probably. Yeah, exactly. So, and when you now hit play, it should say, hey, please give me a query first.
Yep. Query cannot be executed. So one of my favorite things about GraphQL is just kind of how it self-documents itself. So maybe before we get started with queries, we could take a look at some of the self-documentation stuff.
Sounds good. So at the root of every query is this query object. So what you can now do is you can really on the right side, you can dig into what is available. And Shy already opened on the right side the doc sections of GraphiQL. So what you see there that we have, that we have assets available and already our food collection. So Contentful on the fly now generated the schema, which means that we can kind of start querying the data.
Cool.
And if we now,
Well, I was just thinking, since we're using GraphQL, maybe we should pull up the GraphQL documentation for Contentful. And you were telling me about a fun link that you discovered in the last couple of days that we have.
Yeah, so you can go to graphql.contentful.com. which brings you right back to the documentation. It describes all the functionality that we have in the GraphQL Content API. So Contentful's GraphQL API is read-only. So for mutations or changing of data, you still have to use our SDKs and the RESTful API. And when you scroll down here really to the bottom, you will find the link to GraphiQL. We will dive into a few of these details that are described in the documentation maybe a little bit later. But you will find here the URL. And what Shy just did is that he grabbed this URL there and he added the space and the access token to the URL, which means that this way we can dive into the Contentful GraphQL API and can start discovering the data.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of using Postman with REST APIs, and this for me is even better than Postman because I don't have to leave my browser for it. And I can still kind of poke and respond at those JSON bodies.
I think it's super nice. So I think a good start would be to fetch this first entry of the food items that we have.
Cool.
And what you see then,
food. Yeah. And I guess we should click into food.
Yeah, and you see that food now, this field of the query object has a few arguments that you have to pass if we want to query a single one. So you would have to use parentheses first if we want to pass arguments. And you see there on the right side that there's a preview, there's a locale, and there's ID. Yeah. The exclamation point there means that the ID is mandatory when we want to use this. So you can now do ID, colon, and then double quotes.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing, so this is probably similar to the REST equivalent of like a get entry where we're filtering by a specific ID now.
That is correct. So when we now go back to Contentful and we fetch the ID of the food entry that we had.
Yeah, let me go ahead and grab that info.
Yep. You can then go to GraphiQL, you can paste the URL there. And now it's still complaining. You see the little squiggly line.
I see it.
GraphQL, can you have it? It should tell you what's wrong.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, expected name found.
Oh, let's see. Let's go into the next line. So do a line break. And then a pro tip in GraphiQL is that you usually can do control space or command space to see some auto completion.
Command space.
Or control space. Here we go. So what we see here is that the GraphiQL tool will tell us what fields are available in the API, which is super nice. So when you now hit the play button again, we should... Nice.
We have data. We've done it.
We have data. So with this, we basically are already ready to get this into our React application. So what we now really can do is we can copy everything that is on the left side and start building and bringing it into React.
Cool.
Cool.
So let me go ahead and pull up VS Code then for us.
Yeah, let's go to VS Code.
And I guess I'm going to go ahead and just save this query so I can get my what's it called? My clipboard back. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. So what we could now do is, so now we have the query variable in the app function.
Yeah.
And create React app is based on functional components. So what you see there is a function app. At least in the newer version of React, everything is just becoming a function. So when we now go, for example, into this return value, this is what it will be rendered later on. And the cool thing about the tooling that comes with Create React App is, if, for example, if you would not now just add another word into line 17, it should refresh and reload the whole thing.
And
cool.
Save.
So when we now go to the preview again, we should see this updated result. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go.
There we go.
That's cool. So the thing now is, when you think about this idea that it is a function, it's really just execute the function and something comes back. It should be very predictable. The question then is how we would make a data call here. And the first thing when you want to use functional components with React is that you have to use something that is called hooks. And the common example here that everybody does is implementing, for example, a counter. And I think this makes it very clear how this works. So what you can do is you can now go to line 1. And after the React import, you can do 2 curlies.
And we're going to be using the useState and useEffect here?
That is correct. And we're going to see what this means in a second. Cool. So useState, we can bring in both of them. Cool. So what we can now do is we can go into our functional component inside of the app function, and we can call useState. useState, the way it works is that you call it with an initial value. Equals useState.
And since we're doing a counter, I'm guessing 0.
Yeah, let's go with a 0. And the thing is that useState will return you an array. So what you can do now, and the array has on the index 0 the value that the state of this function component has. So you can now call this counter or counter. And on the index 1, what is available is a setter function. So you can now do set counter.
Cool.
So when you can now go into the paragraph, for example, and you can do 2 curlies or somewhere around there, and you can just log the counter to check if everything is going nicely here.
Cool.
So when we now go back to the browser, what we should see is 0 somewhere.
0.
That looks good. So first step's done. Cool. So what we can do now is we can, for example, add a button.
Cool.
And
so let's
let's get rid of this one.
Oop, that's going to throw an error.
Yeah.
There we go.
And you can do just add a button.
That's going to be, is that curly with a function in it, or?
Yeah, first of all, let's put inner HTML here, or inner, which is like +1 or add number or something. Yeah. Cool. And then you can give the button an on-click handler. So you can do space and then on-click. On-click.
Yep.
And then equals, and then curlies, because now we have to pass it in a function.
Yep.
Without the spaces between the
no spaces
around. Yeah. And there you can pass an anonymous function, so 2 parentheses and an arrow function.
Got it.
And there you can do a set counter. And then and then counter +1, for example. Cool. Let's give this. Yeah, that looks good. Let's give that a try.
Ooh,
sweet. So whatever now happens is when you click the button is that we use set state, so the set counter, which then immediately triggers this re-rendering of this function. This way we can now bring in the contentful data there to force this function to re-render on thing. So when we now go to VS Code back again, what we can do is, first of all, we can start fetching the data. And usually, if you have complex applications, what you would like to do is that you bring in a library, for example, like Apollo or something, to fetch some data. In our simple case, what we can do is we can use window.fetch, which currently is cross-browser supported everywhere.
Yeah,
So
and we also don't want to spoil our later streams. We're going to have folks from Apollo joining us later down the line as well, and so maybe they can show us that as well if you come back to the stream.
So we'll do that in the future too. So what you can do now is we should probably open the documentation for fetch so that people can follow along if they want to. So I would Google window fetch MDN because MDN is the best resource out there. It's the So, and here we probably find some code snippets somewhere. That looks good. So you can really just pass it a URL here, and then this returns a promise. So let's grab that one.
Yeah. So let me go.
And cool.
And I'm guessing we need to replace this with the endpoint for our GraphQL API.
I think we should bring in Contentful there,
Yeah. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab GraphiQL. So this was something that I thought was really cool, was that the only thing that we needed to do to make this work was get rid of the Explorer. I didn't know that when I was, I learned that when I was watching one of your videos. And so theoretically, this should just work now, right?
Not quite yet, because we're not passing the query yet. So window.fetch has also a second parameter that you can pass in, which is then an options object. So when you go at the end of this string, you can do comma and you add a object.
Yeah.
And what we would have to do here is we would have to define a headers property first, because the Contentful API expects that we are sending a proper content type. So you could now do headers and then go in there and then quotes. And then I would go content type, content minus type. Yep. And then that should be application JSON. Yeah, application JSON. And then we would have to pass in our query.
Yeah. Do we want to move the environment variables, or we can just leave it in this long string? Maybe come back and do that later.
I think we can do that later. So the thing with the access tokens in Contentful is that this is currently a read-only token. So it's very common to have that in your front end, because the worst thing that people can do is to query your data. So you have to be also a little bit certain then that if you shouldn't put sensitive data somewhere when you have the tokens in the front end. So what you could now do here is, I believe the other property is body. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you can do a colon here, and then we have to stringify the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And now we can pass in an object with a query property.
So query, there we go.
Yeah. So, and it's using the shorthand thing. So
yeah,
if we're lucky and we go
set this as a post method as well, or?
So yeah, I think that the post method is a good thing. So Contentful's GraphQL API works also with get, but as Contentful usually, as GraphQL usually also allows to do mutations in the same run, most of the APIs go with the post request here. So when we now go to the browser, we maybe see already some data being logged to the console, because currently we have a console log in the callback here.
Yeah, I see we've got our object with some data and some food in it, and we've got our name right there. So.
Cool. That looks cool. So what we could now do is instead of logging.
I was just thinking this is really nice, because this is really, like, I mean, we haven't really dived too much into like why GraphQL itself is more exciting than REST, or why it's more useful. But I think this is actually a really great example. So traditionally with like the JavaScript SDK, when we would do that get entry, would get all this additional data, whereas here it's really lean and simple, and it's just what we asked for. So this is really light, and I imagine that that'll make the loading experience of the page much faster as well.
Yeah, so you can save the fields because you really have to define the things that you want to query. But also you can, so in a RESTful world, usually what you're doing is that you have a nodes endpoint and an animals endpoint, which usually results in several HTTP calls.
Mm-hmm.
In the GraphQL world, you can go in, write the query, and really query the data that you're interested in, which then saves HTTP calls, which is super nice.
Yeah. All right. So we've got our data. Should we put it in the stream, or put it on the website?
Yeah, I think that is a good idea. So what we can now do is we can go into the then block, and we can call, for example, set data. But currently we don't have the use state hook yet. So maybe let's change our counter example to something else. Yeah, so it's data and set data. And
then since it's not a number anymore.
Null. Yep, that looks good. So and now we can go in here and and then before we
counter logic.
Yeah, so let's get rid of the counter. Yeah.
And then we're gonna do. It'll be data, right?
Yeah. And then maybe we can go to GraphiQL and have a look what the response was like.
Yeah, let's do that. So
it's data, food name.
Got it. So that's our content type, and then our field and the content type. So something like that?
That looks good. When we now go to the browser, you should see though that there's a bug. What's the problem?
Oh, what did I do?
Data is not defined in the first run. So remember that we set a use state with null. So before you return this big template state, what you would have to do is you would have to have an if block, which is usually where you put in a loading spinner or something. So what we could now do is if not data, and then return maybe a span that really just says loading or something. sad state loading. Yeah.
I'm always bummed when things are loading.
So that looks good. So we still have an error. Data food is undefined. That shouldn't be the case anymore.
Yeah.
Can you scroll down? Can you go to the network panel?
The network panel, absolutely. It looks like it's getting a 200. The request is going. Good. Response is coming through.
Data, food name. Cool. Can you go back to the code that we have written?
Yes. Did I?
If not data. That looks good to me. Maybe you have to do a refresh because we ran into the error. Is that? Can we give that a try?
Yeah, we can give that a try. Nope, we got the loading there. And then the error again.
Well, then it's time for...
Let's go ahead.
Debugging, huh?
Yeah.
Let's add a console log to before line 22.
Yeah, so right up here.
Yep.
We can do data.
Yeah, let's have a look what we're dealing with there.
Okay. And this is going to log to the web browser, not the terminal console. Yeah.
That is correct.
So we've got our data object food name. Did I spell food name correctly? Yep, food, capital name.
Oh, that is interesting.
We are setting the JSON. Yeah, response.json. And then yeah. I'm not sure.
Can you command out line 29? Let's see what happens there. All right, let's see.
Let me get it. We have a lot of calls there.
Yeah, let's. So what is happening right now? Let's come back to that a little bit later. So what happens now? Can you go back to the code?
Yeah.
So when we now call this functional component app for the first time, what is happening is that we call useState, and we get the state and the setter function on top. Mm-hmm. Now, when we call setData, it will recall this app function, which then means that everything starts looping. So basically, where we are now are inside of an endless loop.
Yeah.
Which is something that we should avoid. And this is where useEffect comes into play. So what you can do is you can now go into fetch returns a promise.
Yeah.
You could do now useEffect, and you can pass it an anonymous function.
Got it. So
with 2 parentheses, and then do an error, and then 2 curlies, and close the parentheses. Yeah, and the before you close this, pass an empty array as an second parameter here.
Got it.
And I will explain what this is in a second. So what we can now do is we can go into this function, and we can call the fetch inside of this function.
Yes. Let me just go ahead and move that there.
Yeah, and let's format that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, the ESLint is not going to help me out, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to do this manually.
So yeah, and let's move everything a little bit to the right. Yeah, and also line 24. Cool.
Yes.
So when we now save this, we should be at least get rid of the
millions of requests.
Yeah, Firefox is complaining already, so let's do a refresh here.
Let me do
and maybe you can clear out the console.
Yeah, I can do that. There we go. So it looks like we're only getting 2 requests now.
Okay, so we're logging out data twice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So maybe let's then go back to the code, and I'm going to explain what's going on here. Sure. So useEffect in React is a way to make calls that are side effects. This is how it's written in the React documentation. And basically what you do with the second function argument there is that you can call the function that you pass in whenever something changes there. When you pass in an empty array, you're basically only telling, hey, only run this code on component, similar to component.mount, which then means that you only do it once. If you would have, for example, variables coming from the outside and you want to do something when these changes, you would pass these in the array on the second time. So, and with this now, it looks like that maybe you should try to comment in the line again. So someone in the chat pointed out that fetch returns a promise, which is correct. We're using a lot of thens here, so let's see what happens now.
So turn this off or turn it back on.
Yeah, and let's see what happened to the error.
Loading, and then the error comes back.
So
are we making sure that since we're using a promise, do we need to double check that the promise is resolving, or?
No, I think we have a naming clash here. Can you go back to the Can you go where we call set data? So in line.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe call that something else.
No, in line 23. You see there, what you could do here now is that this promise resolves with, if you do it like this, you could now do set data JSON data. Or let's see.
It's pulling the empty data array and setting the data. Yeah, that makes sense. That was dumb on my part. So, nope, it didn't fix it.
No, we're still not there. We have a nested data here. So can you show the log again?
Yeah.
In the browser, you see what is logged somewhere. So we have here that our data object holds a key that is called data.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do is when we call set data, we would have to do. Can you try JSON.data there?
Yeah, we're one level too high.
Yeah.
There we go. Got it.
Here we go. Nice.
Oh, yes, that makes perfect sense because the graphical object is data and the thing that we are returning is also data. So yeah, got to go down one level. That makes sense.
Cool. With this, we can then remove the console log, and maybe we want to try to get in the image. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's go back to graphical for that one first.
Yeah, let's figure out the image. So what you can really do is yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was going to click into the documentation of the food object, and then I see we've got this picture object here.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm going to go ahead and click into that again. We're just going to return an asset and then the URL, right?
That is correct. So you can drill down here and then URL. And now you could do Command Enter, I think, if you want to have a shortcut in GraphiQL. So here we see the URL now. So what is cool about this now is that when you look into the documentation on the right side is that the URL has some transform arguments. Ooh. Because currently this URL has a 4 megabyte image.
Mm-hmm.
So let's shrink that down a little bit because nobody wants to load a 4 megabyte image, even though it's a very nice cheesecake.
Yeah. No, it looks better when it's blurry, so you can't see the imperfections in the cheesecake. So it's going to be a parentheses, right?
Yeah, and then you can transform and then do a colon. And now, I would just go with control space and let's see what's available.
Yeah, control space.
Doesn't work?
Give me it. Sorry.
You were colliding with your spotlight. That's what it is, huh?
Yeah.
Well, then we have to do curlies, for example, and dig into these fields there.
Cool.
So what we could do here is now, I think width should do the trick to get it down a little bit.
Yeah, we could do that.
What do we want to do? 600, 800 or something?
600 sounds great.
Cool.
600 pixels?
I think it's just a number.
Just a number? Great.
You fire that up and let's see what happens.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and pull these URLs so we can compare them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So there we go. We have, and I see it's already added the 600 URL parameter for us, which is great. So this is our original URL. And,
4 megabytes and a smaller
much
version.
Smaller.
Nice.
Yeah, 600 by 450.
So basically what's happening here is that Contentful has, with the images, we have query parameters that you can use to scale and shrink and maybe add a border radius and all these kind of things. And what you usually had to do, you have to read the documentation on contentful.com to figure these out. In GraphiQL, you have that right at your fingertips, which is super nice. Yeah.
Oh, and it's all documented really cleanly as well. And yeah, this is great. I'm loving this. So
yeah. I think it's super nice too, yeah. So what we can do now is we can copy the query over and we can paste it into our query object here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and add some new features.
Cool. Yeah, add the feature of the image. Let's do it.
Cool. Should we get rid of the spinner and replace it with...
let's get rid of the logo here.
I mean, it's a nice logo, but...
You can keep the class name, then your cheesecake is rotating.
Yeah. All right, let's do that then. So it'll be data.food.picture. Is that right? Yep, picture.
Yeah, it's picture and then URL.
URL. And I went ahead and I pulled over the description as well. So we can go ahead and...
That's a good idea for accessibility, yeah.
Yes. Cool.
Let's see if that works. And we have the spinning cheesecake.
Yes, we've done it.
Nice. Let me take a screenshot of that. I think that's super funny.
I mean, we should use the rounded feature that Contentful gives us to make this a circle.
Do it.
Well, let's make it rounded then.
Yeah. So that was in the transform, and that's I think it's corner radius for this one, or is it?
Well, let's figure out. Yeah, I think it's corner radius.
Corner radius. Actually, let me just pull up the. I hope there's a Contentful engineer in the chat that can share that images.contentful.com does this for us as well. Okay, circles.
I think you had it in GraphiQL already.
Yeah, I just wanted to see. They're using 20 as the example, so let's use 20
right.
as well.
So you could now go into the, and then, what was it? Corner radius. And then 200.
200? I can do 200. Let's see what 20 looks like first, and then we could do 200.
So this is not, well, that's not enough, man, huh?
That's
cool. So yeah, let's see how it looks good to me.
I'm happy with that.
We should set it a black background. I think that's possible too.
Yes, we probably are going to need to transform it to a PNG for that as well.
Now I think on the right side you already have background color. Maybe we want to set black so that it's fitting onto the background of Create React.
Oh, I was just saying if we make it a PNG, wouldn't we get transparency?
Yeah, let's give it a try. I'm not sure if that works with the corner radius though.
We'll find out.
Format PNG.
Just double check that it's. Yep, PNG. Yeah. Oh, and it even popped up for me as well.
Nice.
Cool. So let's have a look here. I think you have to define the background color, unless background color allows you to do set transparent, which I'm not really sure of.
Well, we have an easy way of finding out, thankfully.
So hex color probably
defaults to transparent for PNG, so we should be okay.
But I think we uploaded a JPEG. Which can you click hex color? Does hex color allow a transparent already? No, that's 3 channels. So let's go with black probably, huh?
Cool, let's do it. So we need to do, what was it? Background color.
Yeah.
And then, is it, do we need the?
I think you have to go double
RGB.
Yeah. No, double quotes, I guess.
Double quote.
And then, yeah.
Should be colon. Black is 0, 0, 0,
0, 0, 0, 0.
All right, let's
give that a try. And I'm digging that. It doesn't work.
Did we do this correctly? Maybe not. Let me double check in background color. So let's double check that it's actually, the URL is being formatted correctly. Oh, maybe we're having an escape issue.
Maybe you can drop the quotes. Yeah, maybe you're right. Can you drop the quotes? Does that work? No, I don't think that it does.
No, it doesn't seem to be happy with us.
No. 0, 0, 0, 0.
Yeah, it looks like it's converting the colon into a the ASCII version, I guess, or not ASCII. You know what I mean, though. We could see it right there in the URL.
What happens if we go single quotes? I think GraphQL is everything in double quotes, but let's try single quotes. Yeah, it's already complaining about it, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't like it. I'm so used to hitting Control S after I change a Postman query to save the Postman query, and it's I'm like struggling to break out of that habit.
Can you escape the colon just with the backslash?
Yeah, let's do that. This direct?
Other way around?
Other way around. And it seems to be angry. Invalid escape character. Let's Google this. Escape colon GraphQL. Oh, it's a quote. So should be able to do like that. Am I reading that right? Where's see.
Let's see.
String literals are identical, so we use a preceding slash. Yeah, so the slash should have worked. This isn't super important. We can always come back to this later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and just.
We're gonna figure that out and share it later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's bring in that picture then.
And I like that all we need to do is save the query and everything else is just sorted and it just goes. Yeah.
Nice.
See, there's the transparency I was talking about.
That looks exceptional, Shy.
Super nice. Let's make it a real circle, huh? Can we go a little bit more?
Yeah, we can go more. How deep do you want to go instead of 200? Do you want to do 500 or 1,000?
Let's go 500.
Amelia, do we have any comments in the chat?
Oh, we have a bunch of comments. We don't have any questions. That's why I wanted to kind of shout out. If anyone has any questions, it'd be a great opportunity to ask any of us a question, either about Contentful or GraphQL. We're happy to answer your questions. And if you don't get a chance to do this and you're watching this pre-recorded and not live, you can hit us up on Contentful Slack, or you can also just message us. It's all of just our name at contentful.com. So I'm Amelia at contentful.com, and it's the same for all of us. So we're happy to help.
Cool. So what should we do next? Now we have already we have our one cheesecake, which is spinning. I think that's a good thing.
The recipe, like if people want to know what the ingredients are, if they're coming over to have some cheesecake and want to double check for allergies or something, maybe we can do that. Do you think we have enough time to install the rich text?
How much time do we have left?
We've got about 10 minutes, but
I think that's going to be sporty.
We also control a puppy at the very end, so just.
But I think we can already structure. We can start digging the data in GraphiQL, and then we can have a look at how this is going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was it? It was recipe. And now you see that. Oops, that this is not working in GraphiQL. So when you now go in here, you can open with Let's have a look at the documentation in GraphiQL. And you see that recipe, and this is the structure of Contentful's rich text. So what you can now do is you could open that and you could ask for the JSON. So you can fire that up.
And I can see here we got the
So and this is the big difference of Markdown and Contentful rich text. So the thing with Markdown is, for example, when you want to link, for example, to different pages, or you want to link assets or images that are even stored in Contentful, usually this results in an empty string, which then means if something changes, you have to go with a lot of string values and update all these kind of things because it's just a string. With rich text, we have a structured data here, which is a recursive tree. So you see there on the top that it has a document root node, and then it always has something like content, which is then an array, and then it's going down, and you can then traverse your way down this data structure. You have the content available in a reusable way, and when something changes, like for example a reference or something, it will automatically be represented in this data. So I think what we could do is we could just very quickly, because I don't think we can implement it in 7 minutes, but what we could do just to show a little example here is that we could create a very quick second cheesecake, and we could link it in rich text.
Yeah, let's do it. So
let's
Luckily, I do have a second cheesecake.
Because you're such a master cook here.
Great.
So what you could now do here is you can add the other one inside of that. And let's give it just a little bit of text so that we can inspect the JSON. So yay. Cool. Now you could publish this.
Yep. We just add a title because it'll yell at us otherwise.
Yeah, and now you have to grab a different ID though, because we are querying now the second one. Yeah, good call. So you can paste the ID here, and let's do this.
Yeah. And so I see at the top, we've got this embedded entry block, and we have an entry linking to that original ID now.
So can you now go into the recipe? There was a second property available in the recipe, and it was links.
Links.
Yeah. And can you, you have to drill in there because GraphiQL is complaining, as you see.
Yeah, I was just pulling up the documentation as we clicked on things.
Yeah.
So we've got links, and then
entries.
Entries.
Yeah. And then now we're on the level of one food item again. And now you should get the title or the name, or what was it? Oh, let's go block first. Yeah, let's drill in there, and then curlies again.
So block, entry, food, block. It's gonna be.
Yeah, let's just grab the ID for now.
Yeah.
So this now needs it's a sys ID. So sys curlies and ID. So the thing there, but we're running short on time, is maybe we can do that next time, is that the data is inside of this recipe field here. We would now to do some GraphQL magic here to say, hey, if this block entry is a food item, please do that and that and that. But the part here is that we have the data structure in the JSON field available, and we have all the data that we need for the rest automatically too. So this way you have this structured data, and if something along that is linked updates, you can get that data automatically too, which is not possible in Markdown like that.
That's really cool. I really like it. I can see that being really useful.
Now.
Yeah, I'm happy with this. I guess checking in on the comments one last time before we sign off. If there are any last comments?
People are really enjoying it. Shout out to Titus, who says it's amazing. Thank you so much. And we don't have any questions, but again, if you're watching this pre-recorded, you can always reach out to us on the Contentful community Slack or on Twitter. So we're happy to answer your questions. And we're going to be doing this every Tuesday for the next 2 weeks, same time, same beautiful place, the World Wide Web. So.
Amelia, can you tell, are we allowed to announce who our guest for next week is yet?
Oh, sure.
Do you want to go ahead?
So we will have Praveen from Hasura will be joining us, and he will be talking about building your first GraphQL API with Hasura. So that'll be a lot of fun, and he has a lot of fun stories from their community of people who've built awesome things using GraphQL. So he's going to be doing a little bit of live coding with Hasura and Contentful's API, so that'll be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to having him on the show. He also was on our DreamStacks GraphQL themed podcast and got to hang out with him at the GraphQL Summit this year, which was a ton of fun.
And you can find links to all of this stuff on the Contentful developer portal. That's contentful.com/developers or contentful.dev if you want to rock the shortcut lifestyle. And we're going to be adding the full schedule up on this page in a little bit. And Stefan, if just remind me again, I forgot, where's your course? If I want to go take the course, where do I go?
It's you click either the blue thing there, which you had on the screen, or it's Contentful, contentful.com/developers/videos learn GraphQL. And yeah, for future episodes, we have already a pretty lined up schedule. But for example, if Titus has questions or ways where we want to go with Contentful GraphQL, we're happy to kind of get ideas and move along together and see what we can build.
Absolutely. We'd love to have other guests. And I put all of the links in the chat here on YouTube if they'll still be there if you're seeing this pre-recorded, so you can check them out. For the last 2 minutes, I did promise everyone I would show a puppy. So
cool. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
He is our mascot of the summer of GraphQL. This is Cowboy. He is 3.5 months old. So that's it. He might
always a pleasure with Cowboy.
Yeah.
You see him at the GraphQL Summit. He had a great time there too. So we try to keep it fun this summer. Lots of puppies, lots of fun. But yeah, if you'd like to be a guest on this live stream, we'd love to have you. So just drop us a line on Twitter or the Contentful Slack, or you can write me, Amelia, at contentful.com, and we'd love to have some ideas for new themes too. And if you have any burning questions that you'd love us to answer on one of these streams, please reach out. We'd love to hear it.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much for coming.